Okay, so we know that this month is going to be exceedingly busy and productive time in the Senate. Just one point I'd make on Judge Childs, who we're moving up. We're going to vote for the D.C. Circuit. It's one of the most important votes we're going to take all this year. The D.C. Circuit is so important. It's probably the second, even though my New York friends in the Second Circuit might disagree, it's probably the second most important circuit in the country. As you know, the Supreme Court only gets about 75 cases a year, so loads of decisions, particularly those related to government and Congress and balance of power, go through the D.C. Circuit, and Judge Childs will be a fabulous addition, and it will restore some of the balance of some of the very MAGA judges that Trump put on that court. So we're very pleased and proud about that. Now, on USICA. So, after months of hard work and countless rounds of talk, we're going to vote today to move forward on legislation our country desperately, desperately needs. A CHIPS bill that will lower costs, boost American manufacturing, and protect our security interests. This will be a test vote, and the outcome will decide whether the science portion of USICA is included. So let me explain to you what we're doing. I have announced at our caucus, and I believe, at least they told me they would, Senators Cornyn and Young announced at their caucus, that the first vote, which is really a motion to proceed on the message, and only needs 50 votes, but that will be the test vote whether to include science in the bill. If we get enough votes to pass it, which means, some comfortable room and 60 votes or more votes than that, comfortable, we can put I will put the science provision in. I very much like the science provision. As you know, I wrote some of it in the original Endless Frontiers bill, which is a lot of the science parts of this bill. It's vital to the future of America, just like the CHIPS provision. So if we get ample votes, that we can be confident that the cloture vote, which will occur after that in a day or two, will succeed with science in it, I will put that as the amendment. If, on the other hand, we don't get the votes so that the science part, adding the science part, will not bring us above the amount we need to comfortably exceed cloture, we'll just put the CHIPS and the ORAN and the ITC on the floor, which we're confident will get enough votes. I prefer putting the science provisions in, and I think they're very important to the future of this country. In addition, while that's happening, the Bipartisan Innovation Conference remains in good shape. They were coming close to an agreement. We would have had a conference committee for the first time in a long time, but as you know, Leader McConnell threw a wrench into that when he urged his Republican colleagues to back off because of reconciliation. And for about 10 days, even though we were close, there were no negotiations. All the Republicans refused to negotiate. And so the conference committee is not ready, but it's getting closer. And I believe that the conference will succeed when it finally is successful. It'll take a little while, obviously, to get it on the floor. I'm committed to getting the conference done when we return after the August state work period. Why do I think that? Well, number one, I have the right to put it on the floor as a conference committee. Two, it's very quick, so it's not going to take a long time. And three, it's unamendable. So if we put together a conference report, there are lots of things Republicans and Democrats want in the eventual bill that will not be in this bill, even if science is included, we'll have bipartisan desire to get a conference committee done. Okay? So, bottom line, though, we've got to pass a bill and hopefully get it done. We want to get it done as soon as possible. We're starting today. I urge my colleagues, if you want to fight inflation, if you want to create more good-paying jobs here at home, bring American jobs home. If you want to keep America strong and competitive in the 21st century, support the CHIPS Act today. It's a very important bill. It's forward-looking. We'll see if our Republican colleagues, hopefully there'll be enough of them who see it that way, we'll see if they want to strengthen America in the future or just run away and abdicate to other countries taking the lead in science in chips, and in the economy. Let me call on Senator Durbin. Where'd he go? There you are.
Last week, while Senator Schumer was recovering, we had a briefing in the SCIF on chips, our national security, and our economic security. In addition to the Secretary of Commerce, we had experts in the area of national security and defense. I attended and listened closely. You could not listen to that presentation and come to any conclusion except the fact that our national security and our economic security depend on developing a computer chip industry in the United States that we can turn to and trust. That's what this bill does. It comes before us this afternoon, but it does more. I consider the investment in science to be fundamental to whom we are as Americans, and whether or not the next generation has a fighting chance to continue to lead the world in research. I liken these two votes, chips and science, to the Hubble telescope and the Webb telescope. With the Hubble telescope, we saw things unimaginable, and we've made our programs on science and research based on those. And now with the Webb telescope, James Webb telescope, we are seeing way beyond that into the future. Chips will take us to the limits of the Hubble telescope, but it will take this scientific research to move us beyond into the world of the Webb telescope. And that's where we have to live, and that's where the world has to be. I might also add that I thank Senator Schumer for his endurance on this particular issue. This has been a long time coming, and especially Maria Cantwell in our caucus for all that she has done with so many others to make this possibility. This is a vote for the future. I want the Democrats to be on the right side of history, and I pray that enough Republicans will join us that we can see the science section of this bill added.
Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm always talking with families in my home state of Washington about what matters to them, and that drives my focus here in this Washington. So what I'm focused on is fighting inflation and bringing down costs. We need to get products people need on our shelves, and we need to build an economy that leads the world in innovation, but that also leads to good-paying jobs for workers right here at home. Well, soon we're going to be voting on this bipartisan bill to make progress on these challenges by tackling the chip shortage, which is constricting supply chains for electronics, it is driving up costs, and it's even threatening our national security. Back in Washington State, we know a thing or two about manufacturing chips. We are one of the top 10 states when it comes to making semiconductors. And we also know how much it will cost our country in the years to come if we do not invest in keeping up with our global competitors. Not to mention how much the chip shortage is costing families right now through higher prices. A big part of the problem is that our nation's semiconductor manufacturing industry has been losing jobs to other countries. It is half the size it was in 2001. The legislation we are voting on today will help reverse that trend, so we not only protect the jobs of thousands of workers in Clark County and King County and across the country, but we also create new jobs by investing in semiconductor production, especially our small and medium-sized manufacturers and suppliers, and we stop these jobs from being lost to competitors overseas. And let's be clear, this is about cost too. This will be a big deal when it comes to getting supplies on the shelves and getting prices down and fighting inflation, because the chip shortage, it affects everything. We're talking about cell phones and kids' toys and medical devices and refrigerators and cars and a lot more, you name it. This is really, really important to our supply chain. Strengthening it is a common sense step we can make right now to bring down costs. Democrats are pressing forward with solutions, not sound bites, strengthening our supply chains, investing in American manufacturing, and lowering everyday costs for everyone. And we're going to stay focused on tackling inflation every way that we can while building an economy that works for everyone.
Senator Stabenow.
Well, this is a really important vote today because it really is about lowering costs for consumers, and it really is about bringing jobs home and manufacturing more in our country, and it really is about national security. So when we look at this, it is automobiles. I know a little bit about that from Michigan. It's home appliances, it's computers, it's missile defense systems. It's what our Army drives. It is every part of our defense systems. Modern life depends on semiconductor chips. Most of the chips are produced overseas, as my colleagues have said, and it's time to bring that home. The pandemic certainly showed us what happens when the global economy is shut down and we don't have the capacity to have a just-in-time supply chain by reaching out to Asia and being able to have access to those chips. The bad news has been, because they're produced overseas, that prices are high for product and are going up. We don't have the jobs we should have, and right now we're in a precarious situation long term as it relates to national security technology. In Michigan, just let me paint a picture though, because this is very real for us. I mean, we've been living this for the last year and a half. GM has had to idle nearly all of their plants at some point. Assembly lines have shut down. Workers have been sent home repeatedly. Parking lots at Ford plants have been packed full of cars that can't be sold because they're missing chips. You can see that not very far from where I live in Lansing, Michigan, that we see rows and rows of cars and trucks that are waiting to be able to be sold because they don't have enough of the chips. Car lots across the country where they want to sell the vehicles, normally full of different makes and models, have been nearly empty. And the price of cars, both new and used, has gone up. One of the major purchases we make as consumers has gone up, way up, because of the lack of these parts of consumer chips. So that's why it's time to pass the CHIPS Act and include as much as we can in there. The science provisions are certainly incredibly important for our future. It is going to lower costs, it is going to bring jobs home, and it is going to strengthen our national security. And it is about the next generation. You know, for too long, we've let other countries control a technology that modern life depends on. We don't have to do that. We absolutely do not have to do that. This bill will make sure we aren't doing that, that we are actually taking control of the future, both the jobs, the technology, and at the same time lowering costs. So let's pass the CHIPS Act and let's build things in America again.
Thank you. Yes.
Have you and Democrats decided to move forward on the smaller reconciliation bill that deals with prescription drugs and the Affordable Care Act?
Yes. Let me say this about reconciliation. Democrats are moving ahead with the provision to lower prescription drug prices. We'll be meeting with the parliamentarian this Thursday for the bipartisan birdbath on this provision. As you know, the bipartisan provision. First, Democrats get to go forward with the parliamentarian, then Republicans. But the real birdbath is both are together and make their arguments. It's a little like a courtroom. That's what's going to happen Thursday. And let me say this. We are excited about doing prescription drugs. This is something we've waited for a very long time, and is going to be a major, major accomplishment to help people bring down inflation. It has so many good provisions in it. Of course, for the first time, the drug companies will be forced to negotiate prices with Medicare. But there's other things as well. For instance, there's a $2,000 limit. No one will pay more than $2,000 for drugs. That's going to send relief to lots of people who desperately need expensive drugs and can't afford them. There is a provision, an anti-inflation provision. So once the company starts selling its drug, and they've already then, even if the price is expensive, they say, well, it's years of research, it's all those costs. But once they set that price, they can only raise the price on their own at the inflation rate. That's a huge thing. So there's lots of things that are in this provision, free vaccines, so many good things. We are proud of this, and that's what we're doing on reconciliation in addition to the ACA provisions that we've agreed to. Yes, next to.
What's your plan then to deal with some of the climate initiatives and proposals that were initially outlined in the reconciliation package?
Well, as I said, here's what we're doing on reconciliation. but we are going to keep fighting on climate. It's very, very important. It's an existential threat to the globe. We're urging the administration to do things that it can do administratively, and we're going to look at everything that we can do. Yes?
You called on President Biden's fifth day in office.
What?
You called on President Biden's fifth day in office for him to declare a national climate emergency. I'm wondering how important you think it is for him to do that, and you just mentioned you want him to take other administrative steps. Could you specify what steps you hope?
Well, there are many they're considering. I'm not going to get into details, but there are lots of them. And yes, I called for him to create a climate emergency, call for it, and I still believe that. Yes, yes.
On CHIPS Plus or CHIPS Plus Plus, at this point then, is the idea of expanded tax credit also for design, is that off the table this round? And then second of all, in either version, do you know if it's paid for completely?
You're going to see the chip. You will see the CHIPS bill is already published, and you can look at all of it and make your determinations on both of those things. Okay? Okay. Now, wait, I want to give away one of Manu's little secrets before I... Look, he has his own little chart that he reserves his seat. Hold it up, Manu. Show everybody. Now, we need all the other networks to put things on their seats so they can get a front row seat just like Manu. Well, it's the only one I see. Maybe I should have one here. Schumer.
Wondering, when you look back at your negotiations with Joe Manchin, did you make a mistake in going so long with him? And he's been clear. He says he's been clear to you about what he could.
Okay, look. Number one, on something as important as climate, an existential threat to the country, I will make every effort, even when it seems to be an uphill fight, because it's so important. Yes.
When will the bipartisan antitrust bills hit a floor?
Well, I'm working with Senator Klobuchar. I support these bills. I want to bring them to the floor. We have to see that we have 60 votes. Way in the back.
Senator, do you have a second reconciliation vehicle available to you, even if it's in the new fiscal year?
There's always a second reconciliation bill available to us. Yes.
The House is going to take up bills this week to codify protections for same-sex marriage and for access to contraceptives. When those bills come over to the Senate, are you going to take those bills up? Are you going to vote on those bills?
Well, as you see, we last week talked about the choice issue, crossing state lines. This week, led by Patty Murray and our leading group of women senators, we are putting Title 10 on the floor and going forward on that, for a UC, introducing it, talking about it, letting the American people know. Let's face it, this is a MAGA Supreme Court, a MAGA right-wing extremist Supreme Court, very, very far away from not only where the average American is, but even the average Republican. The people are seeing that. We're seeing it in poll numbers across the country. You've got to take a look. People are understanding how bad this court is and that they've been put in power by the Republican Senate, just about every one of them. So we're going to look at everything that we can do to deal with these issues. We don't want to see the country move back. Yes, last one.
Do you feel like Senator Manchin was an honest broker with you?
Look, Senator Manchin and I know each other a long time. We have many disagreements. I am very strenuous when I talk to him about my disagreements, but we always try to show each other respect. Thank you, everybody.